reporters from Asheville and
From the newsroom to the nursery.
We're juggling a demanding career on live TV with the demands of motherhood.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Karen.
They are AnchorMoms.
Hey there. Welcome to another episode of AnchorMoms, the podcast. I'm Katie.
And I'm Karen. It's like our intro.
Yep.
So listen, we had this conversation the other day that I think will really ring true for a lot of moms out there. What is the formula for the right amount of children's after-school activities? Can there not be like a spreadsheet or like some guidance on like, okay, your kid is age 8. They should be spending 4 hours a week on extracurriculars or whatever it is. It just feels like I have no idea. I have no idea what's right. I feel like it's so hard to get the right balance of organized sports / activities for your children and also making sure they're not too tired. They're not too overcommitted. There's not too much on their plate. I just don't know how to get the right answer.
I mean, I think the right answer is individual to you, your family.
Well, that's not helpful.
And your kid.
That's not helpful.
I know. But I do think
so many things right? Like there should be a guidebook on so many things about parenting and there's just not.
But I think that's like the answer is there is no answer. The answer is you just have to decide what is right for you, what you can commit to. You know, the old saying here that we talk about on AnchorMoms is basically if all these extracurriculars are even making you miserable as a parent, that means that you're not being the best parent that you can be. And then that sort of trickles down to your kid. And then your kid is potentially unhappy. So it's like it not only needs to work for whatever kid you're talking about, it has to really work for
your family. You're
Yeah.
right.
I know that's not the answer maybe that I think it's the answer that you know, but it's not the answer. It's not you want somebody to hand you a piece of paper that says this is what you should do.
Okay, you have a kid this age, here's the money you should do. This age, here's the money.
Right.
I think you're right. I also think it's hard because I just feel like some of our friends are doing all the things and some of our friends are doing none of the things. Some of our friends, I feel like, don't feel like they have to go to every practice. Maybe I'm like a stickler that I feel like I don't want things to like if I sign them up and pay the money, I feel like we got to go.
You're saying the kids, like you feel like you're not saying like the parents need to go every practice. You're saying like some kids, people feel like it's okay if their kid misses a practice.
Well,
or two.
I just feel like in general, I don't want to spend the money and commitment to something. But then again, I'm like, I don't know, at these ages, if it's just like a rec, like anybody can sign up thing, is it okay that I don't know. I feel like, and maybe this is too some of the way I was raised. Like I was raised in a house where you do not miss an activity unless you are like, you have to be sick from school to miss an after school activity.
I think
I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like there's so many interpretations and so much leeway on how much they're supposed to be doing. And I guess I would like, and maybe this is a question for my pediatrician, I would like someone to say to me, yeah, look, at this age, like this is an appropriate amount of things to commit to. But I guess I'm more worried about the kids and how, like, am I overstressing them? Am I overcommitting them? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It is a really hard. I mean, we struggle with this as well. It's a hard balance. I will say this in terms of, can you miss something? Can you not miss something? I don't ever let River miss something because she doesn't feel like going.
Right. Same.
That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because she's 5, 6, and on any given day, she doesn't really, in my opinion, like doesn't have like the understanding of like, what it really means to like not want to go or want to go. It could like depend on whether or not she had like a snack 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, in the past, and I say this as we're just ramping up for her like fall activities, so this hasn't come up yet in first grade. She's 6. Last year, if we like she had gymnastics on Friday evenings, and if we were going out of like the family was going out of town, she missed gymnastics.
Yeah.
Brian has been coaching River soccer, so we're pretty committed to going to that stuff just because he's coaching. But it would be kind of the same thing as like, you know, if we're going to say we're going to go, but like I would interrupt, or I would not do a practice or a game at this point because of like a family thing. I think the older your kid gets, the more involved they get, the more of a commitment. Like let's say a team is depending on your kid for a soccer game. That's a big soccer, or it's a big thing for like the whole team. That's where things get to be a little bit
Which I don't think
dicier.
we're quite there
no,
yet.
I don't think we're
like,
quite there yet either. I don't think we're quite there.
It's just an interesting discussion because I do feel like, it's just hard to know. It's one of those things that's hard. I feel like it's very hard to like hit the bullseye on, right? Like it's hard to, as a parent, get into it and then be like, oh, wow, we have struck the absolute correct amount of after school activities this season. Like we have really nailed it. Like this is it. This is where we should be, because it's just so hard to do.
I know, but I don't think you should look around to see what other kids and what other parents are doing and use that as your barometer.
Right.
I just think that's a really bad idea. It's kind of like, again, the same thing we talk about in the podcast all the time. Like, you know,
there's going to be people on both sides.
There's going to be people who have tons of help, who can commit themselves and their kids to all of these extracurriculars because they have 3 different drivers happy to help drive their kids to all these things. And then there's going to be people who one of the parents doesn't work. And so it's they have time during the day to do the things they need to do for themselves. And so they're happy to commit, Monday through Friday to whatever things their kids are involved in. Like, I just think, it's like comparison is like the thief of happiness. Like you have to decide what is right for you. I'm not saying that's easy. River is doing a couple of different things this fall, and I have tried to consciously be like, do you want to do this? And I will ask her several times before I sign her up, because that's the other thing is these things like aren't cheap.
Right.
None of these activities are cheap for a 6-year-old. Right?
No, for sure.
And so she has been like, yes, yes, and yes. Now, we'll see where we are.
In a month or two. Yeah.
Exactly. We'll see where we're like. River has already said she wants to do a couple of things in the spring, different from what she's doing in the fall. She's asking about piano lessons. She's asking about swim team. And it's like, my hope is that at some point, and maybe this is like a pipe dream. People who have older kids are like, you're making me laugh right now. I want River I want her to have 2 things that she really enjoys doing. I don't care what they are. And like, let's focus on those. Right now we're in that like, throw things at the wall and see if it sticks phase. So I don't know, but it is hard to know. And again, this week the things are starting to ramp up, and like I get stressed, by the way, because I'm like, okay, we got to get home from school. We got to like eat dinner. We got to like do the homework. I have to get you here on time. I have to, who are we carpooling with? Who are we doing this with?
I think that's part of my problem. Sometimes I just look at other moms and I'm like, how are you doing this? Like how?
Yeah.
How? I don't know. And I mean, to your point, yes, they might have help outside the house, or one of the parents doesn't work, or, but it's just a struggle. And you don't want that. I think my biggest thing too is like, I just don't want them to be overtired. And I do want them to have time where they just get to play, right? We come home from school and like, hey, we've got like, you just have a day where you can just play and do whatever you want to do. And like, let your mind do nothing.
You can be creative and imaginative.
And you can play by yourself, or you can play with your siblings, or whatever you want to do. Like you can just do it. But I do also think there is something to be said for, and maybe this is just because of how I was raised, like this is what we're committing to, and you're going to work at it, and you're going to hopefully get a little bit better, and like, let's try, and this is our activity. I don't know. It's so hard. Who knows?
It's so hard. It's so hard.
Bennett is trying gymnastics for the first time and just told me that next season she wants to do singing as her sport.
Oh.
Which is hilarious to me because, of course, singing is not a sport.
Right. But it is an activity, right?
I don't know. Do 5-year-olds take singing lessons?
I have no idea.
But it just like further shows how like the kids, this is all above the kids, you know, right? Like they're like, they have no idea how much we pay to sign them up for these things. They don't know what day it is. They don't know which day they have what things. You know, it's all just like.
I try to review it with River like every night before bed, but sometimes I start to feel like, am I reviewing this for her or for me?
Yeah,
Because it feels
yeah.
like it's kind of like, as I'm like, okay, tomorrow, like
This is what's
Nanny
gonna
is dropping you off
happen.
at school.
Yeah.
Then you're going to go to school. Then I'm going to pick you up. We're going to like work on your homework.
Mhm.
And then you have soccer starting at 5. So we're going to have to like eat like a really good snack. You and Dad will go to soccer at blah. And like after I say it, I'm like, that was a lot of information. That's just a lot of stuff. Like maybe just have a great day at school and I'll let you know what we're doing minute by minute. Is that
Show up for the afternoon shuffle? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's, I mean, I have a funny feeling if you ask your pediatrician, he would say exactly what you said. Like your kids have to have downtime.
Right.
So
like you got to have some balance, but like that's a pretty wide range. And like it's up to you, Mom, to like determine how
Just
much
like
of that
everything.
is. Yeah.
just like everything in life. It's up to you,
Unfortunately,
Mom.
There's no real guidance in any of this. The first article is from Business Insider. I left my 3 kids behind to celebrate my 40th birthday on a Swiss mountain. Being alone was just what I needed. This is just very fabulous, accurate, true, all the things. So this mom talks about how she wanted to go hike and kayak and do all these adventurous things, but she realized she wanted to do them alone because, as we all know, traveling and having big plans with kids just doesn't usually go together. She said pretty early on in the article that she realizes that she's grateful to have the financial means to do a trip like this, but she also did feel some mom guilt. But she had a really great quote from one of my faves, Dolly Parton.
Oh, yeah, Dolly.
In the article. She said, if there's something that you need to do, want to do, can't afford to do, got the nerve to do, I think you should do it if it's going to make you feel better about yourself. Yes, Dolly. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think this is so true on so many levels. If you want to take a trip by yourself, do it. And she also talks about how she wanted her kids to see her as more than a mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I talked about on the podcast, I took a girls' trip for my 40th and it was fabulous. And I think that, of course, first of all, of course, it's going to be a totally different trip, right? If you're alone or with other adults versus with your kids. So I think if you're wanting to do specific activities, of course, there are going to be times that you can't take the kids. And also, I do agree that I think it's important for my kids to see that I have friends. I have friends that are outside of their friends' moms, maybe. I mean, some of them are my dear friends like you, who our kids are also friends. But you know what I mean? I think that it's important for kids to see that I do other things besides just take care of them. I don't know. I think maybe previous generations might think that's not the way you should be, might think that's taboo. I don't know. But I think it's important.
Yeah, I think I remember my mom took trips.
Did
Couple
she?
of trips, yes.
I don't think my mom did.
Not by herself, with like girlfriends.
But with other friends, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't remember. In fact, we used to stay with my aunt and I like loved it because it was like just like time with my favorite aunt. Yeah. She writes, I simply felt delighted from making the resolution to take care of myself for carving out time to celebrate who I am as an individual separate from my kids. And I think that's, not everybody, like she says, has the means or the ways to do this, but it sounds like she did, and good for her. She left the mom guilt behind, and she talks about that she's taken her kids to different places. Like she took her 4-year-old to a house in France, and the 4-year-old had more fun than she did. She booked an Airbnb 15 minutes away from home for one night, and it allowed her to catch up on work without distractions. So she's sort of like dipped her toe into like traveling with kids. We all know it's fun to travel with kids, but it's complicated.
It's a lot,
yeah. Yeah. I think this is now. I got to say this. Like, she went to Switzerland. Did we mention that? She went to Switzerland,
Swiss mountain, yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it sounds lovely, but I don't want to go to Switzerland by myself. Like, I'd rather have a girlfriend with me, or like
I did think about that too. But I mean, that's just our personalities, I think if you want to do it alone, go for it.
But I mean, I do think that there is a certain, like if it was like you and your husband, that's like there's a different take on that. Does that make sense? Like, like it's bonding time between like mom and dad. I think
like marriage time versus just going alone.
I think society looks at that a little bit different, and it's a little bit more permissible.
Right.
Going by yourself, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If you told people, hey, so I'm leaving River and Brian by themselves and I'm going to Europe for a week by myself, people would be like,
what?
oh, okay. Like people would be excited for me, but there would be like a pause because that is like
different.
A very different thing.
Right. Than a girl's trip or
right.
right. Marriage. Yeah.
A trip with your husband.
Yeah,
a trip with your partner. Yeah.
A marriage trip.
A marriage trip. Well, I knew what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a mom's for us?
I do. So
does it have to do with your feet?
It does not. I'm not going to talk about calluses. I'm not going to talk about the cracked feet. Karen did that last week. So if you haven't listened to last week's
tuning in
episode,
and have some foot issues,
listen to last week's episode. Yes, you'll enjoy it. So I got a new phone about a month or two ago. Not even the newest. In fact, I think this might have been like a refurbished one. Anyway, I was long due a new phone and I needed a new phone case. And I had been getting these Instagram ads. It was like Instagram knows exactly what you need when you need it. I'm sure there's like a whole there's a whole thing behind that as well. But so this Velvet Caviar brand kept popping up.
Does it feel like velvet?
No, it's just the name of it. Who knows? Why not?
Weird.
Right?
Okay.
Like, isn't that like catchy? Like, sounds so like, oh, hi, some Velvet Caviar. What they
feel
really
bougie
are
with your phone case.
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're super affordable, you guys. It says that the cases are $40, but every time I go on the site, they're all on sale for $24, like every single time.
Okay.
So we'll link it in the show notes. They have Brian, my husband, was like, when I was like, yeah, I'm going to look at new phone cases. Like, this is what I want. He was like, are you a teenager? I was like, well, like, what do you mean? So
you got to get a phone case.
Yeah, right. But they're also like, some of them are kind of like funky. And, I thought this one was kind of like.
It's cute. It's like
right?
pink and flowery and it's cute.
Yeah. But so here is this is like an additional mums. You can get the phone case.
A twofer. Okay.
But, and this is one I did Brian did get one of these as well, although not from Velvet Caviar. Those magnetic wallets that you can put on your phone. Have you seen these?
Yeah.
Game changer, you guys.
Really?
So you have to have.
But it's not on there.
What's that? I don't have it on there right now. No,
I just put it on when you need it.
Yeah, Brian and I went to a concert on Friday night when we go to like a baseball game or like something where you like want your phone and you need like an ID and a credit card, but you don't want to bring a purse or you just have like a small purse. These things are awesome. Okay. I had to get like a MagSafe case because it's magnetic. So the wallet, these little wallets are magnetic to your case.
Okay.
And so if you Velvet Caviar, the little wallets are like $24 and you got to get them with, like I said, this like MagSafe case. Now that I'm saying this, you'll have seen other people using
I know what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, it's funny. Like I was like, I never knew I wanted one until I saw one and I was like, oh yeah. And so I have liked mine so much that Brian got one as well. He actually uses, he's a dude.
Right.
So he uses like I have to carry on a wallet because I'm like a responsible mom. Like I have like insurance cards and like, all the stuff. So I have to carry like a real wallet most of the time, but I highly, this isn't like breaking news stuff, but if it's something that's been on your mind, go ahead and do it.
Okay. Yeah. As you were saying this, I was like, I still unfortunately have to carry around like a diaper bag.
Right.
Like it'll be a minute before I can just take my phone, but someday I will buy one and I will enjoy every second. I don't have to lug around a big bag.
Yeah. That's
like,
what
it's funny that like now my youngest is, he should be potty trained. He's not yet, but it is funny because sometimes because our big kids are older, I'll leave the house and be like, oh, I don't even have like diapers.
Right.
Like, can you imagine like with your first kid, like you'd been like, had all the things in your bag. And now I'm like, let me like stuff a diaper in like my purse and like move on.
See, if there was like a wallet where you could stuff a diaper in there, like you would maybe do it, right? Yeah. Anyway, we'll link it in the show notes. I think Velvet Caviar, I think the site, the phones, like, are they like cheap and it's cute.
Great. All right.
I like it. All right. This next article is from CBS 12 and it's sharenting, talking about the sharenting trend, the digital parenting trend that could harm your child's future and their mental health. So this is something we've also talked about on AnchorMoms previously, but like basically the definition of sharenting is posting your kids, right?
Mhm.
Putting your kids on social media. I don't necessarily, to me, like sharenting feels like you need to be like more specific, like you're complaining about your kids or you're sharing something
It's
specific
like
about your kids.
very like personal.
But
yeah.
this article is sort of like, it's just a blanket, like posting your kids on social media, which, is only ironic because we're doing a podcast about parenting and we talk about our kids all the time. So I do feel like we maybe partake in this like sharenting trend quite a bit. This is a pop psychology term. And the article, the expert that they talked to talks about how sharenting, there's two issues with it. Number one is it makes kids a target for predators, which this is nothing new, right? People have been concerned about this forever. Posting your kids on social media, random strangers can find out their names, where they go to school, where they live, what activities they're interested in, and that can turn into all sorts of ugly things, right? The second thing, and this is like kind of the newer idea behind the negativity for sharenting, is the potential impacts on the mental health of your kids, kind of like the future mental health of them.
Right.
And for Karen and I's case, right? Like our kids, they're not on social media, so they don't know what's out there. Nobody's has talked to them, presumably, about what is posted in regards to them on social media just yet. And it talks about how the consequences of sharenting, in the long run, could really impact your kids' self-esteem and their relationships. And this was what was crazy to me. This new research from Information Security Lab, it's out of the State University of New York, says many kids have digital footprints by 2, and some even have their own profiles. When parents share information about their children online, they create and craft a narrative about who their kid is, and it can create a lot of pressure to conform to that identity for the kids.
Yeah, so that's what the new piece of this is this mental health risk for children, that I guess the idea is that if parents post about their kids and say certain things about them growing up, then when that kid is old enough to be on social media themselves, they will look at those things and say, oh, well, back when mom was posting that I was good at soccer or whatever the things are, and then the child feels like they need to conform their identity around this social media image and persona that your parent has created for you. I just don't know. I don't know that that's really a thing. I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings on this. I of course want my children to be safe. And I can see the side of it that's like that, we don't post pictures of our address, right? Or where our kids go to school, things like that. Of course you want them to be safe, but I just think, I don't know, I feel like, and maybe this is me being defensive, but I feel like I would have to post some pretty personal details about my kids on social media for them to feel like, I think anything that I would say, I just don't think I'm like that specific, right? That, they had a hard time potty training, or I don't know. I can't really think of an example of what I would post about my kid. And I feel like usually it's like, it's their birthday. It's they're having fun at the pool. We went on vacation. They love Dollywood. Like, I don't think any of these things are things that my kid later in life is going to say, oh, wow, you really pinning me into a corner there, mom, and like made me feel like I had to be XYZ person.
Yeah.
I don't know, but maybe I'm just trying to defend the fact that I do post my kid.
Well, and it's just kind of funny because you and I, obviously, though we love this podcast and we do share a lot of personal things, like you and I have a personal relationship outside this podcast. And like, I know things about your kids that you would never mention on this podcast and vice versa. And you know things about River that you would never mention and I would never mention because they're like personal things, right? We have like a personal friendship in which,
and we also wouldn't put those things on social media.
Like the real hard things that I'm struggling with, like I know would be, we touch on it a little bit. I don't want you to think that this is not real. This is like our real life. But of course, like everybody has, like
you protect your kids.
Right. A behind the camera, like persona here. And that's like sort of where I stand is like, I'm like, I do feel like we do a pretty good job of not revealing too much. Mm-hmm. However, I do think there are probably occasions when I don't know, down the road, maybe River would be irritated with me. And I think this is like a whole new territory, right? Because this is like the first generation whose like parents are posting about them on social media. You know, there's also like this whole idea that forget about like, I mean, there's a mental health component to this as well. But the other component is just that you're like violating your kids' like privacy, right? Like, you know, River didn't agree to have like
pictures of her posted
at Dollywood, at the pool, at soccer practice later on tonight. Like, how does all of that work in like the grand scheme of things, and like how is she going to feel about that? So, you know,
I mean, for sure, you're right. And I guess I just am thinking like this is, you know, in some ways, this is how we document life, right? Like, how often are we like, oh, when did that happen? Oh, let me go back and look on Instagram and like, oh yeah, that was like such a fun time, whatever. I think it's a way that we as a society are kind of keeping track of history, right? With our families and our friends.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, is this the new photo album? I mean, yes, of course, naysayers would say yes, but you're not putting that photo album out for the whole world to see. But I don't know. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I feel like our kids might say, yeah, you were just like showing pictures of us having fun as a family. Like, what's the harm?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, I think it's like one of those things that like we might not know for another 10 years. Like when River is 16.
I do.
Things on the internet live forever.
But also like, I don't know. AI and social media, like is Facebook still going to be around? Is Instagram still going to be around? Is there going to be something else that trumps it? And no one goes back and looks at our MySpace pages anymore.
But I wonder if like stuff that is posted to MySpace is still part of like the public domain. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure, but also like, do we care? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll find out. I was not on MySpace, fortunately enough.
I wasn't on MySpace either. I never had a MySpace. I think MySpace. Did you have a MySpace account? Yeah, I think it was like maybe a little bit before our time.
Yeah.
I will say this. So I just want to leave you with this because this expert says, and I was like, ooh, this like really makes you look hard at yourself. Parent oversharing is sometimes because of things that the parent is struggling with, like difficulty setting boundaries or attention seeking. And I was like, that like resonates a little bit, right? And, you know, the recommendation in this article, is like before you post anything, like pause and sort of question your motives.
I think that's good advice. Always, right? Like let's take a minute before we rush into something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say this. I don't know if this is common knowledge or not, but, you know, as TV news personalities, we are encouraged to post not just every so often, but daily, right? So I think that's another piece of this too, is for some people, like our jobs, it's a requirement. So I think that's, I don't want to, say that I'm only posting because of work, but a lot of times I am. And I think there's other jobs like ours where you do post because it's a part of your job, right?
Well, and I mean, especially for us, like, if like we're the brand that we're posting, right? Like we're not working for like a clothing store, so we're posting the clothes. Like we're posting like the Katie Killen, Karen Zakalak like brand, right? And like it's hard not to post pictures of your family because
that's like the
by
majority
way,
of your life.
That's your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we're just making excuses for ourselves.
I can't tell if we're just.
I can't tell either. Yeah.
Who knows? I guess we'll find out down the road. Okay, this last article is from BuzzFeed. If you're a parent, you might want to read these 22 horrifying stories from teachers about kids who just have way too much screen time. Sometimes I like these like articles from BuzzFeed. They're like, here's 20 examples.
I know, I like them too.
Like, it's just like, okay. Because, I could perhaps go and find these examples on my own, but I'm not going to. So these are all pretty shocking on various levels, stories about, and I think, they're all from teachers, right? About specifically what they've seen in terms of kids and screens.
And they're frightening.
It's device, whatever type of device. Yeah, it's frightening. A couple that stuck out to me, we won't go through all 22, but a couple that stuck out to me. At one point, the teacher said, it's time to like put the devices away. and the kid hugged it. Literally was like, I physically have to have this, like almost as if it's like a lovey or like an emotional support blanket or something. As a kid, this child could not let go physically of the device, which, whew. Another one was, and this one was, whew, she talks about how they had like a water day at school, right? Like a, what do you call it? Field day.
Yeah.
And they had bouncy houses, a big water slide, all these things for the kids. And there was many kids who said, we're bored. Can we go sit in the classroom on our device? Rather than do all the fun things that kids love to do with their friends, they were choosing purposefully to sit with a device rather than do all these rides and fun things that they had planned for the kids.
Yeah. I highlighted those two as well. Here's another one. This poster says, I teach pre-K, and the number of parents who were shocked by bad behaviors because, quote, they never do this at home. Well, at home, they never have to interact with anyone because they're always staring at a screen. So, there you go. There was another one. I'm going to look for it here. It was like a mom who was like, listen, I'm trying so hard to keep my toddler son life as screen-free as possible. And the number one obstacle to that is my own mindless reach for my phone anytime I sit down. He started noticing me scrolling when he was around 6 months and got really interested in it around 10 months. So now I try to keep it away completely except at nap time. But then nap time hits and I'm like a junkie who's been waiting hours for a fix. And she writes in parentheses, currently 4 minutes into a nap as I type this.
It's so true. And it is so true. And it is such a good reminder for us that like our kids are going to do what we do, right?
Like I'm literally, I don't even, these like are like terrifying to me. And you know why they're terrifying? Because I've seen some of this with my own eyes and I know that these are true. I know this to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. You know, I can't remember which maternity leave, I deleted Instagram from my phone for all of maternity leave because again, I wasn't at work, so I didn't have to post anything. And it was so fascinating that for the first couple of weeks, you do kind of reach for it and think like, oh, let me check it. And then that goes away and you don't miss it at all.
Yeah.
Like it was glorious. And then I came back to work and had to put it on my phone again and keep up with it. But you inherently, like that poster said, it is almost like an addiction. And it's a terrible one. But we do it.
I know.
But I do think it's a good reminder, especially from teachers' eyes, that they are seeing this unfold. You know, there's a lot of discussion now on like screen-free phones. Like I was doing a story and was talking to some teachers about back to school stuff and you know, different ways. Some teachers put like a shoe thing that you would hang on the back of your door to put all your shoes in on their classroom door so that the kids can put their phones in when they enter class, which I thought was genius.
I love it.
But it does just start to get into like how much kids are just addicted to these devices.
Yeah, I mean, take these articles and listen and make this your Bible, parents, because it is so scary. Also, can somebody just take my phone from me and put it in like a little shoebox? Seriously.
I know. I'm trying to be better about like, especially after, you know, I feel like during when, you know, there's different like phases of the day, right? There's times in the afternoon where maybe you're home with the kids and you're checking your phone. Unfortunately, we have to check our phone for work. You know, we just do, even if we're not in the building. But it is, I want to find a way that I can have like screen-free time. Unfortunately, I feel like, and we kind of talked about this the other week, you never know when you're going to get a push notification or a text from a parent or something that you just feel like you have to respond to. So unfortunately, I feel like it's just hard to like just totally put them away.
This is the society that we live in. Like to a certain extent, you need to be attached to your phone because that is how every piece of information about your kids, be it from something serious, they're sick at school, they need to be picked up, something happened, to something like soccer practice is canceled, bring cupcakes tomorrow at 12 p.m. to school. I mean, like everything is filtered through your phone. So to me, it's like a pipe dream. These people who are like going phone free. I don't, as a parent,
How do you do it?
That's like really not an option. The only option is probably just to be committed to, I'm going to look at it every 2 hours and be okay with missing some stuff. Anyway, it's sad.
So on a lighter note, I have a win.
Win.
So as you know, Bennett started kindergarten.
Yes.
Which was, she's done great. She's just a couple of days in and is loving it. So that's wonderful. But the bigger underlying win here, for the first time in, let me do the math, 8+ years, we are down to only one daycare bill.
How is that going? Fabulous.
I mean, if you've been through this, moms, it is literally like a raise. I mean, it's a big chunk of money that you get back when your kids start school. Oh, I wouldn't even tell you how much we were paying for a number of years because at one point, we had 3 kids in daycare. It's nice.
Congratulations.
It's nice. I mean, I hate to like take away Bennett's kindergarten start and like boil it down to the financial
she's
upside.
doing great.
But she is doing great. She loves kindergarten. But it is also nice to just know that we're starting to come out from this. I mean, we talked about it. We talk about it in a lot of these episodes, just the unbelievable financial burden of childcare. Whew. So to know that we are like through the thick of the worst of it and we're coming out the other side and now we only have one little bill.
Congratulations.
It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yes. And even nicer is the fact that Bennett is loving kindergarten.
Even better.
And is happily getting on the bus with her siblings and going to her little, she's like, I mean, it's so funny, you worry about kindergarten, of course, and the start of it. And then the things that, did you know we get 2 recesses? It's the best ever.
Yeah.
Like, those things that they come home from kindergarten are like, what?
River watched a video about termites and she found out that you could get them in the mail. And she came home from school and was like, you can get termites in the mail. How do we order them? I was like, girl.
No, we don't want termites.
We are actively trying to keep termites out.
Interesting.
But it is funny, like.
The things that stick with them.
What? Like, come on, school. Like, don't tell them they can get them. She's always like, you can also order ants. What do ants eat? I think we could order some ants. I was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. No.
All right. No ants, no termites, but less paying for daycare is the positive. Hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Anchor Moms is a Sinclair podcast produced out of WLOS in Asheville. We're your hosts, Katie Killen and Karen Zakalak. Anchor Moms is edited by Matthew Yates.
For more information on the topics discussed in this episode and to stay up to date on future episodes, follow us on Instagram @AnchorMoms.
You can follow Anchor Moms on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Know a parent who could benefit from this week's Anchor Moms episode? Your recommendations help our show to grow, so spread the word.